Thanks for joining in for today's session. This is going to be a great session from Zebia Academy Global, and we are the pioneers and leaders in the space of providing trainings in big data, agile, DevOps, cloud computing, and much more. My name is Sayed, and I will be your instructor for this entire hands-on workshop, which is on one of the very key service by AWS, which is going to be Resilience Hub. All right, before I go ahead and talk about that, a bit of brief about myself. As I said, my name is Sayed. I am into the industry for about more than 80 years and been involved into cloud trainings and solutions of building around cloud and hybrid model, which is for about 8+ years now. I have been building solutions which is cloud native, microservices based, lot of implementation around bringing on-premises infrastructure onto the cloud there, and much more. All right, guys, so that's a bit about myself, and to talk about the session, which is going to be on AWS Resiliency Hub. It's going to be great session. I hope you're going to like, and it's going to be one great service, which is what you're going to be going ahead and implementing if you haven't done so, and which is going to give you great resiliency for your different architectures for whatever workloads, applications you're going to be running on the cloud here on AWS specifically. All right, so I hope, as I said, it's going to be a great session there. We're going to be completely deep diving into this session, which is going to be workshop based, and we're going to do everything end to end hands on. All right, so let's get started. And once again, I welcome all of you. Today, we're going to talk about AWS Resilience Hub, and I'm going to walk you through with this particular webinar, and that's going to be really interesting. When we talk about the Resiliency Hub here, we'll look into some of the key components of what an AWS Resilience Hub is, and what it's going to give you, in terms of the advantages and greater benefits in terms of the managed service available to you. We're going to look into multiple examples and use cases, and we also do one of the implementation there for maybe a very high mission critical application there. All right, just to review an architecture here, let's say, for example, we're going to have a VPC, and we're going to have, let's say, multi AZ configuration in terms of we're going to have 3-tier architecture. Maybe we're going to have a public subnet, an app subnet, and we have a DB subnet. Of course, the database and the application subnet is going to be a backend subnet, which is protected and which is not open. Public subnet is where we may have our front-end servers. And one of the key components to look into, apart from the VPC, the internet gateway, the routing table, and the routes within the table, and these different subnets, one of the important point to look into is and focus on the NAT gateway. All right, so we're going to look into what we see in the architecture here is on availability zone 1, we have in the public subnet one of the NAT gateway configured. What we're going to do is we're going to take the advantage of configuring the Resilience Hub there, and we'll figure out what our architecture looks like in terms of having the resiliency to what level for, let's say, a business critical application altogether. With that, we're gonna review the entire architecture. We're gonna run the Resiliency Hub report, and then we're gonna figure out what is some of the missing components here, how we're gonna rectify, modify, or bring our architecture which is gonna be highly resilient. All right, let's go ahead and continue on exploring a little bit more on the same. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is, before I get into talking about the Resiliency Hub, and I'm going to take you to the landing page there, and we're going to look into some of the configuration part of it. It's important to understand an AWS Resilience Hub is a central place for you to define, validate, and track the resiliency of your AWS applications, which are hosted on AWS, of course. It will help you to protect your mission critical applications from disruptions, reducing the recovery cost to optimize business continuity. It will also help you to keep an audit trail of planned and unplanned outages, and it also help you to meet the compliance and regulatory requirements. You can analyze your infrastructure and get recommendations to improve the resiliency of your application. In addition to architectural guidance for improving your application's resiliency, the recommendations provide code for implementing the test, alarms, and standard operating procedures, also called as SOPs. All right, and much more. All right. So once again, guys, thanks and welcome to the workshop here for AWS Resiliency Hub. All right. What we're going to look into a bit of important components to look into, where, for example, if you look into a key definition of resiliency, it is the ability to maintain availability and to recover from software and operational disruptions in a designated time frame. All right. So that's where the RPO, RTO comes into picture: recovery point objective and recovery time objective. That's what we're gonna look into, and we will try to explore and determine what are some of the considerations which you have to keep in mind while you need to look into what is the recovery point objective and what is the recovery time objective for your particular application is. All right. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is, at the beginning is, very interestingly, what we have is, we're going to have a CloudFormation template, which is basically, going to provide us with some networking architecture, and it's going to be, a combination of, it's going to be combination of multiple services, which is going to define through a YAML file, which is going to set up and configure our networking stack there. All right. So that's what we're going to be going ahead and doing as part of, setting up this entire template altogether. So guys, what we're going to do is, I have the template available, the link for the template there. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to just copy the link there, and I'm going to go ahead and basically try to download the template there. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to actually go to CloudFormation, and on CloudFormation, I'm going to run this I'm going to create a stack. And as I said that, this is going to create our networking components there. The idea is this is going to be the basic architecture there, which we have looked into previously. So it's going to create a VPC, multiple subnets there. It's going to create some routes there. And basically, the architecture review, which we have done, it's going to have an NAT gateway. And then what we're going to do is, based on this architecture, we're going to review, and we're going to do a review using Resilience Hub here. So let's go ahead and create a stack first of all. So I have my template already ready. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to upload a template, which I've just downloaded it. And I'm going to choose a file there. It should be in the downloads folder there. I'm going to actually bring up my the template file, the YAML file here. And you can also look into, just for the sake of, reviewing what exactly this template is doing. I'm going to take you, let's say, to the designer there. We're going to look into, okay. So what we are trying to do is we'll try to figure out what exactly this template is doing. So this is basically, parameters which are defined for the CIDR range there. We're going to also have, so one of the parameters which will pop up while we run this particular template, we're going to be defaulting to a CIDR, which is going to be, for a particular, a subnet, which is going to be this particular CIDR, which is open to public. This is going to be, for open internet there. We're going to have some resources which is going to VPC and subnets, as you see, some of the subnets there, AB, and few more components. So the concept is this is something where we're going to run, some of the pseudo functions, or we're going to get easy, function there to get the availability zones, and we're going to look into more subnets there, and also we're going to define some of the properties, of course, to associate our subnets to specific availability zones and whatnot. So we are basically going ahead and creating a gateway, attaching a gateway, all these different common setup which we do to configure our virtual network altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this, and just the idea was to basically show you guys what this template looks like. And of course, once the template is run, we're going to also get an opportunity to review that. So what we do is we're going to actually bring up the template one more time, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to next here, and maybe I'm going to give the name for the stack, which is going to be let's say, for example, this is going to be initial architecture maybe. And as you see, we had a couple of parameters there. One of the parameters is going to be 0.0.0.0.0. That's going to be public route, and this is for this is basically a public subnet. We're going to be associating this route to. So the idea is basically we're going to have our resources which are sitting in a public subnet, which will be accessing or having the to and fro communication through the internet and all. We're going to be using the other VPC CIDR, which is going to be very specific, and that's going to be 172.0.0.0, and a particular CIDR block range would be /23. So we're going to be using this for our workshop here, and of course, you're going to provide the stack name here, as I said that, and then the parameters. Of course, this is pre-populated. We have defined it as a default route there within our template. We have looked into that briefly, and then we're going to move ahead. All right. So maybe I'm going to give rather than an initial arg, I'm going to give a better name there. Maybe, for example, I'm going to say AWS Resilience Hub, and I'm going to call this as our workshop. All right. Resiliency Hub workshop. All right, let's go to next. And I think everything looks fine. We are, not much bothered about looking into some of the other components or configurations for our stack there. But the idea is to actually get and explore on the Resiliency Hub side of it. All right, so it's going to also give you a bit of a description on the template which you have used here, and define at the review page. It's going to also talk about what are the different parameters we have picked it up. We're sure we have picked up the right values there, and then finally what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create the stack here. All right. So it's going to take little time. Stack creation is in progress there. We're going to look into resources section. It has started creating those different resources. We're going to have the NAT gateway, and We have the internet gateway, we have the VPC coming through, and we will have multiple subnets which we have defined. That's going to be coming up shortly. All right, so it will take little time before it basically goes ahead and uh, creates all these resources. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to to our yep. We're going to go back to the yep. We're going to actually go back to the VPC section there, and we will figure out whatever what we have defined here and created uh, is 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 available or not. So let's go to the VPC here, and we know that we're going to have one default VPC in every specific region. We have been running this particular template in North Virginia, and we could figure out that we have one of the other VPC coming through. All right, so that's going to be the VPC which we have defined here. Although you have one of the default VPC, if you're going to look into the very first of the VPC is going to be default VPC there, and the last one which you see on the list there, the VPC itself is the one which we have just now created there. This is the one which is basically I would have used it for testing purposes and whatnot. I'm going to actually go ahead and delete this, and because this is from the other testing which I would have done, would have created this VPC. I'm going to delete that. It has deleted it, and now this is the VPC which is available, and it would have different subnets altogether. So we're going to also look into you see whatever the subnets which you have defined, it has come up with these different 6 subnets altogether. We've seen it into the architecture there. We had 6 different subnets altogether in 2 different availability zones altogether. A and B is what we have identified while we created the the template. In the internet gateway, we're going to have the other gateway, the second one which is attached to our VPC, which we have created, the custom VPC and whatnot. Yeah, so just few of the components which we have reviewed here. Also the the table there. We have created the route table, 3 of it, and that's what we have defined in the template there. And of course, you're going to have the public one, and of course, I'm going to look into showing you the route for the public, route table. That's going to have the open a destination to be outside world there. That's going to be the world of internet there, and which is going through the target, which is going to be internet gateway and whatnot. And of course, you're going to have the local route and all. So you're going to also check the routes for DB subnet, and you're going to figure out it's going to be your backend subnet, which is where database is running, and you're going to use NAT gateway for any request which you want to make routed to the internet. So that's going to be based on natting and all. So it's going to use natting. So and then you're going to find the app, and which is going to be something which is very very similar routes there with your database subnet or database route table. So that's something very very basic. I think pretty much self-explanatory there, but I just wanted to show you up that this is what our stack has created, this entire setup. It has completed now. So once again, just to review that, we have created a stack for VPC, and that is with the range. We have seen it here. And we're going to look into our VPCs here, and we know there's going to be 172.0.0.0/23, and that's the range which we have defined. And of course, we also have so one of the some of the other sub ranges there within the VPC which we have defined. Of course, that's through the template which we have done it. Okay, so this is great. So we have done that. All looks fine and wonderful. So we have the stack and the networking stack being created, and everything looks fine there. Let's go back and get into the AWS Resilience Hub there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the search. We will type in AWS Resilience Hub there. It's going to pick it up as soon as I wrote AWS RE, and it's going to take you to the landing page of AWS Resilience Hub. Now, let's look into what it talks about. The description about the service itself. It's going to be AWS Resilience Hub, which is going to prepare you and protect your application from disruptions and all. So it's going to offer a single place to define, validate, and track the resiliency of the application on AWS. You can integrate this Resilience Hub into software development life cycles and whatnot. All right, so whatnot. Let's explore a little bit more and look into what we're going to be going ahead and doing on the Resiliency Hub. So you're going to have a dashboard. This is where it talks about the applications and their policy, application breaching policy, not assessed, changes detected, and whatnot. We're going to come to this part in a short while. You also have, the applications, which is what you can define or add your applications, and based on that, it's going to monitor. The Resilience Hub is going to monitor your application, and then based on that, it's going to give you recommendations and and whatnot. Compliance and other stuff. We have looked into that, but let's look into the very first part, which is going to be the policy section here. From the AWS Resiliency Hub, you can get into the policy section, and what you can do is you can create a resilience policy. Okay, so what you do is you're gonna maybe either this way, writing it, clicking it here, or maybe here. You're gonna create a policy there. All right, so you have a lot of options there. You can create a policy based on your business needs. You can select a policy based on suggested policies. Okay, so you can actually select a policy which is based on suggested policy. What we're going to do is, for this particular workshop, we're going to pick up an option, which is to pick up a policy which is based on suggested suggested policies and whatnot. All right, wonderful. So what it says is now is enter a policy name and description, and what we're going to do is what we're going to maybe call this as, let's say, for example, let's say, you can give whatever name you want to. So let's say we're going to call it as critical app policy. All right. So maybe and whatever name you want to, you can go ahead and define that. Description is optional. All right, so I'm not going to put anything on the description part of it. Then you have this suggested resiliency policies there. So these are some of the suggested policies there, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick up. So you have a lot of them, non-critical applications. You're going to have important applications there. And of course, this is suggested ones. And of course, it will differ from the other one. So you're going to have critical application, global critical application, and whatnot. And what you can do is you can actually expand a little bit more and look into what could be the RTO and RPOs for your applications, depending on. So they made it so easy and such a great, click of a button to figure out what particular category your application lies into. So this is for cloud infrastructure, RTO, RPO, and this is something we picked up for non-critical application. One day is going to be an RTO and RPO, which is going to be something if your particular application lies into this particular category, why not? Let's do one thing for the sake of our particular workshop. We're going to pick up a mission critical application. Okay, so let's say we're going to pick up a mission critical application there, and if we're going to look into expanding a little bit more on few details there, we're going to look into the RTO and RPO. All right, so this is going to be a 1 hour RTO and 15 minutes RPO for our mission critical applications, and that's going to be the kind of the SLA for RTO and RPO it's going to maintain, and that is what is required, for highly mission critical application and all. And of course, if you look into, the cloud infrastructure for RTO, you're going to have infrastructure availability zone, an RTO and RPO, which will be about 5 minutes. And, and then of course, we are trying to see if we're gonna, have this particular resiliency, which is, within a particular region altogether. So that's the overall idea, and we have looked into the architecture already before. So based on that, let's do one thing. I'm going to actually pick up this particular policy. As I said that, I've given the name of the policy there, and given the name there, and this particular policy is for mission critical application, and that's it. Let me go ahead and create the okay, and we'll create a policy there. All right. Now this is going to drop us back to the policy details page there, and that is where we are into right now. And this gives us more information, basic information about the name, the tier, date when it is got created, this particular policy just now, and what is the customer application RTO and what is the cloud infrastructure RTO and RPO there for the application. Very, very interesting and very nice. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to get into the dashboard. And, and then what we're going to do is, as part of this, we're going to add an application now, So on the dashboard for Resiliency Hub, what we can do is we can actually go ahead and add an application. Okay. Now this will actually drop us to discover application structure there, and it is where you're going to be adding the CloudFormation stack which we have already created before. All right. So we're gonna define and provide the stack here. We're gonna add as an application the stack, the CloudFormation stack, which we have used to create the entire architecture altogether. So, okay. So in the application structure section, within discovery application structure, we're going to have application structure section within the hub for our resiliency hub there. Of course, within we were in the overview page there. And then what we're going to do is here, we're going to look into the CloudFormation stack here. Of course, that's what, is what we have used to create our application. And of course, you can use existing application, you can use Terraform, you're going to have app registry, resource group, and whatnot. You have a lot of these different, capabilities there to discover the resources for your particular application and all. All right, and then what you're going to do is you're going to come down a little bit, and it basically gives you a drop down to pick up a stack. All right, so this is the name of the stack which I've used when I created the CloudFormation stack, and that's what was the name, AWS Resilience Hub Workshop. I'm going to pick that up, and then what I'm going to do is okay, so what it says is you can add or select a stack here. So and then what we're going to do is we also have a capability where, let's say for example, you can specify the ARN of other CloudFormation which could be outside out of AWS region and all, and you would want your resilience hub to monitor this particular application order. It's great flexibility and whatnot. That's the next option. You see that. For the sake of this particular workshop and all, we are not going ahead and doing that. What we do is we're going to come down a little bit here and enter the application name there. All right. So we can give whatever name we want to give it for our application and whatnot. So maybe I'm going to say, mission critical app, whatever. So maybe prod. So anything, maybe this is for prod and all. So just you can give whatever name you want to, and then it's going to do the assessment there. It's just asking for an acknowledgement there. You can put a check mark. We're going to explore a little bit more on that area of, what is a daily assessment schedule looks like. It is active, and you must acknowledge. We are not going to define. It's generally a good idea if you're going to define some tags there to identify. But I think this looks fine there, and we're going to get into the next section there. And all right, so what we're going to do is it's going to take you to the next page here. All right. So this is where it's gonna, identify the resources here and page. We're gonna find only one resource to identify, and that's gonna be the NAT gateway. All right, and we have set this up as part of CloudFormation template before, and we're gonna pick that up. And all right, so it will try to assess that. All right, and that's what it has picked up as an identifiable resources. And this is again great. Something you can also include or exclude. You have a lot of flexibility there in terms of what are maybe some of the other components which you want to define and whatnot. All right, finally it takes you up to the policy section there. We have already created a critical application policy there, which is for mission critical application. What we're going to do is we're going to select the policy. We have created this policy just a while back. We're going to pick the same policy here. All right, because that's what is showing up. We don't have any other policy there. Remember what we did is we created a policy first. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on next there, and then we finally will get a review and publish page there, and I think everything looks fine there. You can actually look into the application structure there, the name and description, the assessment for scheduled assessment. That's basically a new feature there, and that's why it is mentioned as new. But you can define tags there. You can identify your resources. NAT gateway is one of the identifiable resource which the hub has identified itself, and then we have associated the policy there. And then of course we know that we have picked up a mission critical application policy there, and we know what it had in terms of the RTO and RPO there. All right, so what you do is we're going to look into the review page and all, and then finally you can publish your application. All right. So it's going to take a little while it publishes the application there. It's going to, be, as I said, taking a little while, and then it basically brings you up to the workflow page there. Now, this is where it becomes more interesting. So first part of publishing the application there is what we have done. And, and here you get an opportunity to assess resiliency. All right, so that's very interesting. Now what happens is the first part is you can define a policy there. You're going to associate your application. We have created an application, or defined an application through the CloudFormation stack. We picked that up while we associated the application or created an application on the Resiliency Hub. Now based on that, what it is trying to do is now to do the assessment for our resiliency. What you can do is you can run an assessment to receive recommendations to improve resiliency. So that's the overall idea here. All right, so what you can do is let's say you're going to click on assess resiliency button here, and what it's going to do is it's going to run a report here. It's going to generate a report. All right. So what you're going to do is you can give a name, whatever you want to, and and you can give something, a unique name, whatever. I think this is okay. Or maybe I would say, report 01, just to identify that. And I'm going to run the report there. All right. Now what happens is once you run the report, you can be, by default in the assessment section on the hub here, and then you're going to get a tick mark stating that you have done the assessment for resiliency and all. So within the if you look carefully, now the very next important point here would be is within the resiliency assessment, it has generated a report there, and now what you see is you see a status which is basically was pending, and it has brought up to success as a status. The important thing here is to see the compliance status. And here you can very, very clearly see that we have a policy breached. All right. So that's important to know that. Okay. So depending on the application, which is business critical application, the Resiliency Hub has done the assessment for our application, and it has reported back that there is a policy breach there. Of course, because we have picked up a policy which was, mission critical policy for mission critical application, and it had a set of RTO and RPO. Of course, based on our architecture which we have defined, it could not meet that RTO and RPO. Remember that for our application or for cloud infrastructure and all. So that's the reason it has come back and reported that there is a policy breach there. Okay. You really have to think about at this point, what is your architecture altogether? Of course, we have spent little time, we have reviewed that, we have seen that. So we have clear-cut idea. And now what you're going to do is, you will be in a very good position in understanding what your current architecture is, and also to determine whether it is highly resilient or not. The compliance status here in this particular workshop, which we are doing, clearly states that the stack or the application which we had and the assessment which we have done is basically breaching the policy altogether. So that's what something very, very important, and you need to look into and figure out. This is the point where you will realize whether your architecture is going to be highly resilient or not. What we're going to look into is do a bit of a report there. Let's actually explore a little bit on what reports look like. Okay, so what it does is it's going to give you the application assessed, and that's the name of the application, the resilience policy which we have picked up. So, couple of important information there. It will also have the ARN for the assessment, when it is created and whatnot. And then you're going to look into that very, very interesting part it's going to tell you. In the result tab, we are into the result tab. You're going to look into some of the entire summary, and some of the important thing is, we can see that there is a breach which is due to the RTO in the availability zone. There is a breach, of, RTO in the availability zone section. So this is going to be the RTO section, and there is a breach of, there is a breach which is due to RTO in the availability zone and all. And if you're going to scroll down a little bit further, and if you're going to expand the availability zone part of it, you will realize that there is RTO which is targeted of 5 minutes, which is unrecoverable and all. And if you clearly see in the components part of it, and we could figure out there is no alternative NAT gateway configured. All right. So there is only one NAT gateway, and that is what is basically configured. And and there is no, it says, there is an estimated RTO there, and which is unrecoverable under your NAT gateway section. Networking app component, which is going to be your NAT gateway. All right. So nice. So now what happens is, what you're going to do is, you can actually explore a little bit there and whatnot. It will talk about logical ID for your NAT gateway and whatnot, what I was talking about. And if you're going to explore, just click on the unrecoverable part of it. It clearly says there is no alternative NAT gateway configured. So it's amazing. This is great. So wonderful. How the Resiliency Hub works. So it's it has basically informed us that the configuration changes which needs to be done so that we can actually increase the resiliency and achieve our RTO and RPO. So it clearly says that, at times it is not only, um you need to think about re-architecturing your entire architecture and whatnot. It's also you're going to get some suggestions. What are some changes, or what are some of the components which is not highly resilient here, especially for Resilience Hub here. And this is going to be great, because based on that you can actually go ahead and make some modification and whatnot. So wonderful. So as we saw in the original architectural diagram and the CloudFormation template, remember that, and there was a presentation I specifically walked you through. There was only one NAT gateway in one availability zone, and that was AZ1. Okay. Now we'll deploy and update the stack. We're going to update the stack now. Now we would want to be highly resilient there. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to update the stack within second NAT gateway, which is going to be in the other availability zone altogether. Wonderful. So that's something which we're going to be going ahead and doing that. Now for that, what we're going to do is, let's go back to the CloudFormation, stack. Our the CloudFormation stack there. Okay. So let's go there. So I'm going to search for CloudFormation. However, it's going to be always there in the recently visited services. So very easily you can get into that. So this is what my stack looks like. All right. So this is what my current stack is. And all right. So now what is happening here is, okay. So now what we're going to do is, so this was a stack which is AWS Resilience Hub workshop. You remember that, and the architecture looked like this. I have already showed it, and we remember that was just having one particular NAT gateway in availability zone 1. Wonderful. All right. So let's go back. What we're going to do is we're going to try to update this stack altogether. All right. So what we do is we'll try to update our current stack. So what we do is we're going to select our stack, and we're going to get into update here. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace the current template. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace the current template, because what I have is the other template altogether, which basically in a very nutshell, I'm going to say that it has an entry for the NAT gateway, which is going to be in availability zone 2. So that's what is only the difference there in this particular template there. But let's go ahead and download that, and maybe I'm going to take a little time there to show you what we have it in the template altogether. All right, so I've downloaded that the change template there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the current template, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a template. I've just downloaded it in my downloads folder, and that's going to be NAT Edition. The name itself is going to be nice, and which is okay, which is going to be something easily to identify and whatnot. So maybe I'm going to take you to the designer there very quickly. And what we can do is, I'm going to get you into the template section there. I'm going to expand a little bit, and we're going to look into, how we have the, the gateway, which is going to be a NAT gateway. Of course, we're going to get a gateway IP there. That is going to be an elastic IP there. So, we're going to look into the NAT gateway itself. So we are using a NAT gateway here, which was one of the NAT gateway, and we must have, and this is something we are using a get attribute function there, which is referencing to subnet 1A, subnet A. So this particular gateway will be attached to the subnet 1. Subnet A there. We must have the NAT gateway. Now this is what we have added here, and another NAT gateway, and what we have done is we have attached that to the to our the subnet B here. You're going to look into that. All right, wonderful. So this is, 2 gateways altogether. Let's see, try to run the template. Let's see if it works out or not. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one quick moment. And okay, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pick up the template again. Sorry, the stack there. I'm going to update the stack there. I'm going to pick up, replace the current template there. We already have a template. We have looked into the important, changes in the template. Of course, just a pointer here, maybe, for the sake of simplicity and the for this particular workshop, because the focus is on the AWS Resilience Hub here. I just went ahead and updated the stack. The ideal way would be to go through and create a change set there, and then review that, and then probably go ahead and update that. But yeah, that's going to be okay for here, because the focus is on the Resilience Hub part of it. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going ahead and running the template. We have chosen the file there. We're going to keep all the defaults, and we're going to deploy the stack update. All right. So the idea here is we are not making any changes whatsoever, because we just have updated one of the value there. I'm not going to provide anything on the tags and its value. And I'm just going with the default values whatsoever. All looks fine with me. And what I'm going to do is I will go ahead and update the stack here. All right. So guys, it is straight away went to update in progress. And I think an ideal way would have been, to actually show you here that we have the NAT gateways, and, we already have one, guys. You're going to see that the other one coming through shortly. All right. So point I'm making is, it's going to run the template, and and it's going to create the stack here. Let's say it's still update in progress there. It's going to go ahead and create those, verify the other ones, and it's going to create the NAT gateway. And we're going to look into the gateway. You see, now it has been into pending state. So it has come up now, and very quickly it should be available there. So we have the other gateway, and we've looked into the template section, and I hope you got a lot of confidence here, of what is there, which is part of the template there, the NAT gateway, and we've seen that it's in the pending state and it's coming up, and that's what we have updated our stack with. Wonderful. All right. So we're going to give it a little more time before it basically becomes available there. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is we will re-evaluate our application through the Resilience Hub here. All right. So we already, have done one of the assessment there. Remember that. Now we're going to reassess our application through Resilience Hub, and let's see what it has to say and what it has to, come back reporting on whether we are resilient enough or not, or whether we are compliant. It's going to, give us a report there, and we're going to identify everything. All right. So while it is going ahead and creating and making it available, it's going to still, is an update state there. Very soon it will get into the complete, complete status, update in complete, and then we're going to find, as I said, the NAT gateway available. All right, it's going to be available now, as you see that. And if I'm going to refresh this, it's going to be still in progress. It might just take a few seconds before it basically becomes complete. All right, wonderful. But yeah, we have the the gateway available now, and let's go ahead and re-evaluate our application, and which is through the Resilience Hub here. So I'm going to go back to AWS Resilience Hub here. I'm going to get into that. And what we're going to do is we're going to look into application breach policy here. So we are into the dashboard here, and we know that we have done the one of the we have done one of the assessment there, but what we're going to do is we're going to get into application breach policy, and it basically gives you and takes you to the particular application where there was a set of recommendations and whatnot. We have already seen that in the reporting, and it was clearly visible that we had a missing NAT gateway and all. To make it highly resilient, we have added that, and we are into the summary section. What we're going to do is we're going to get into the we're going to get into the versions section here. Let's say summary, it talks about it. So we're going to have this different version altogether. So it says that very clearly, you must run a new assessment for your application if you have made any changes to your resources or stacks, or if you have published a draft. All right. So that it clearly says that. So what we're going to do is, we are looking into, draft versions here under the version section. See that under versions, we have, a draft section there. And what we're going to do is, within that, what we're going to get into the resources section. And in this resources section, there is a drop down, and we're going to look into actions. Okay. So what actions it says, we're going to actually, pick this up. And then what you're going to see is, under the action section, we can do what you call it as update. What we can do is we can, go ahead and update the stack there. So, so what we have is, for example, I'm going to repeat that. So we're going to be into the draft section, and under resources section, we're going to click on, so we're going to update the stack there, because, we have made the changes there. So, so we are updating that, and we are updating that in the hub here, Resiliency Hub and all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on update stack. All right. So I'm going to pick up a stack here, which is going to be, my stack altogether. The ARN is not necessarily, is not required and all. I'm going to update that. All right. So now what happens is it will actually create, the newer version, so one quick moment there. So I'm going to have, now, we're going to have the, I've updated the stack there, and you're going to see the logical IDs. It's going to also now picked up from the stack that it, we also have another gateway altogether. So we've got that particular gateway, updating the stack there, which is what we had it as part of the template there. Now what we'll do is, let's say, for example, if you're going to get into the component section here. All right. So in the component section, it will have a lot of other information and all. Now what we see here is, for example, let's say if I'm going to click on, the one quick moment there. So you have, different resources if you can filter about, or you can look into filtering by the type there, whatever, and stuff like that. So the idea here is, we have imported the new, we have actually, imported the new resources as we looked into, and, it has added the new gateway for us. It has identified while we updated the stack there, and it had this new gateway, the NAT gateway, which it has identified. And what we can do is, we will publish a new version of the application, and we can actually do this straight away. So we can actually click on public new application, new version, and we're going to click on publish. So it comes up and says, when you publish a new version of the application, this becomes the version that is assessed when you run resiliency assessment and all. So after publishing, we recommend that you run a new assessment to confirm your application. You still will still meet your policy and whatnot. So that's the overall point there. So we're going to publish this, And once you have published that, what it says is, you can actually you can do the reassessment there, or you can actually reassess this, or maybe here it brings up and tells you successfully updated resources, a new version of your application has been published. We recommend you to run a resiliency assessment there. So assess resiliency. So okay, so what you can do is basically you can actually click on resiliency assessment, and that basically brings you up here. And what you can do is to back to the page where you do the assess the resiliency, and it says that run new resilience assessment. So that's where we're gonna run the new resiliency assessment report. So I'm going to this time call this as maybe 02 whatever, and I'm going to run this report. All right, so okay, so we are running a new resilience assessment. Okay, and when we gonna run that and we come down, and it is doing the second reporting, and nice, wonderful. It basically comes up and run the report which has come to success, but the compliance status now this time shows that the policy is met. All right, so this is wonderful. So what you can do is, because we have made changes to the architecture altogether, and we have done this part of doing the assessment reporting again, and doing the testing there. We have seen that now the compliance report says that the policy is met there. You can look into the report there, as we have seen that in the last time. You're going to come into the results there, and you see that this is wonderful. So it has nothing there in terms of a breach of policy or whatever. You're going to look into availability zone for your infrastructure components, infrastructure resilience, high resiliency for your infrastructure components and all, and it is all that what you're defining in your policy altogether. All right, guys, so that's wonderful. I think this was something which I wanted to walk you through with in terms of this entire AWS Resiliency Hub, which is a great service altogether. I'm going to basically have a continuation of this workshop where I'm going to give you more configuration and some of the other recommendations on how you can look into some of the operational recommendations, so while you're working on that. So how you can have different recommendations and whatnot, how you play around with that, and how you're going to use those recommendations and all that. That would be something I would also go ahead and include that in my subsequent workshop. Thanks all, and thanks for thanks for actually joining in. I hope you liked it. I liked it. It's a beautiful service. Been using it. I hope, and I would encourage all of you to start playing around and doing things like creating your application, first creating policies, running your stacks there, doing the assessment, recommendations and whatnot. And as I said that on continuation of these workshops, I'm going to bring up more on this in terms of, what could be some operational recommendations, which is what you may need to follow and how you're going to be going ahead and doing that. With that, we come to the end of this workshop. Thanks once again, guys. I hope you liked it, and all the best for going ahead and utilizing and playing around with AWS Resiliency Hub and monitoring that. Thank you so much.